We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright when the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What's that step coming over you? You're wishing upon a star. You're wishing it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend, and it is a big happy birthday to Alan McKenzie. And I thought we'd dedicate a song to him. Happy birthday. So after three, lads, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday,
to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Alan. Happy
birthday to you.
Hip hip.
Hooray!
Hip hip.
Hooray!
Hip.
Hooray!
Now, Mozzie, you'll have to give him the bumps. Moving on.
Hooray!
That's worth a look.
Get the photos. It is International Weekend, so we'll probably end up spending most of the show filling in with things like that. But thank you to everybody who has tuned in over the course of the last few weeks. As usual, we always share with you our viewing figures, and we never take it for granted. With 49 new subscribers, which is steady away for us as always, 127,000 total views and 2.5 million minutes watched in a month, which is great going. Thank you for all your support. As always, like I said, we don't take it for granted. Spread the word, share it to your socials, hit the like button. That's very important, as we always say. And just make sure you follow us on all the different pages on Facebook. And yeah, keep doing what you do, because as you will have seen in the news this week, we hit the 20,000 mark with what we've donated to charity. We had a lovely letter back from the food bank, which said that we raised approximately 15,000. We knew it was slightly more, but there's a couple of things I think still to be added to that. But 15,000 to the food bank, 5,000 at the minute to Dementia Matters, and that really is down to you guys, not down to me. Yeah, I provide the platform. Yes, I do the shows, but you guys are the ones who part with your cash. We put the effort in doing the events, of course we do, but you're the ones who buy the tickets and come along. And little things like the fanzine, which created such a wonderful amount of money for the Dementia Centre in a short space of time. And I will continue to plug this until Christmas. The Entertainers book, Will Scott kindly agreed to donate some of the proceeds from the first 200 books to the Dementia Centre. So please get yourself to newcastlelegends.com, £13.99 to buy a book. It is going to the printers next week. So I'm going to see the photos laid out and just double check it. I will make sure that it is all proofread, and really looking forward to you guys giving some feedback on this, because it's a wonderful book. It's the first time that so many of the entertainers have contributed to books. Gibbo did one years ago in the 90s, but this is a completely different slant. I did the interviews. Will Scott put it together with some of the stuff he did. We've included Pav, we've included Lee Clark, because Will Scott was the guy who wrote those books as well. So there's a different twist on their stuff. John Hall's in there, Derek Fazakli, but some players who you've never heard from. Mark Hottiger. You know, Mark Hottiger was a great fullback for Newcastle in those very early years in the Premier League. No one's really spoken to him. I had the privilege of doing that. Also managed to get a rare interview with Andy Cole, and the lads gave us permission to be able to put them out on the channel. I'm not going to do that until the book comes out, but we have got all of those interviews as well to share with you, probably in 2025, which I'm sure will make an interesting series as well. But go to the website, newcastlelegends.com, buy a book for yourself, buy a book for somebody else for Christmas. Let's hit the website today and make it possible. Okay, I don't want to get stuck in wormholes tonight. We never discussed what we're going to do on this show. I did say to the lads, I wonder which wormhole we'll go down. But you are in charge to a degree with the questions. But please don't take offence if we don't discuss certain issues, because we have in some cases talk things to death on the channel, and some people just want to go down the same avenues each week. So we are going to avoid that this week. And just, try to go for something a little bit different. But people will ask about the England performance last night. Alan's going to ask the question, the first question. Like, does last night's woeful England performance add more fuel to the Eddie to England fears? I don't watch England. I think I've said this many a time. I'll watch them in the big games. I'll watch them in the World Cup. I'll watch them in the Euros. I do watch the qualifiers. This Nations League is an absolute waste of time for me. I can't abide it, and I won't watch it. Even the games against the home countries, I've got no interest in watching them. So from my perspective, I didn't watch England. I've had all the feedback from people who I've seen and met today, and I don't think Carsley really was ever going to be the choice for the job. So I don't think anything's changed on this, guys, and I don't think this is one we need to dwell on too much, Mitch. But I don't think anything's changed. I don't think Eddie's any further forward or any further backwards. And, the latest line that we got, Eddie, Klopp, and a couple of other favourites for the job hadn't even been spoken to. So nobody really knows what's going on with that. And I don't think Eddie's any closer to the job or any further away. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but my immediate reaction after last night's performance was, oh, here we go, more speculation time, because it's quite clear, to me anyway, that Carsley is an experiment. And Carsley had an experiment last night that just didn't work. Plainly didn't work. Then for me, Carsley's interview post-match, his little slip of the tongue about going back to under 21s, hopefully, it hasn't even, seems to have flown a little bit under the radar to me. But again, I was sitting thinking, oh, yeah, we'll go many articles tomorrow. But I guess there's other things going on in the footballing world. There's a little bit of a distraction at the minute. But for me, absolutely, whilst you say it's no further forward, it just leaves the door open for more speculation, unfortunately. At a time when we're looking for a new CEO, and we may be a little vulnerable ourselves in terms of the setup within the back room, we could do without it. But you're right, in so much as it doesn't take them any further forward, because it's quite clear Carsley's got the job for a certain period of time, and then they're going to take a decision from there. But I don't think Carsley will keep the job. I think that's very clear after last night.
Steve, I'm not sure whether you watched it, but I certainly didn't. What's your take on that question from Alan?
I listened to it on the radio, actually, something different. not because I wanted to, but because I had to, because there was I couldn't get near a TV to watch it. I'm a bit like you in that respect, Steve, when it comes to England games, especially when it's not in a big tournament. It's hitty missy for me. It wouldn't. It's not like a Newcastle game where you miss, you don't get the opportunity to watch it on TV and you dread it. And you get all annoyed and upset when it's an England game and you can't sit in front of a TV. It doesn't really bother us. What I would say is that after what's gone on this week, I think that it's perfectly positioned regarding Eddie Howe for the national press, particularly the London-based press and probably some of the Northwest-based press, to start pressing buttons themselves on Eddie Howe and start to undermine what's going on at Newcastle and try to upset us and unnerve us and rattle us. It's the nature of the way it works in football now. Everybody wanting to have a pop and everyone trying to take a little piece out of Newcastle United at the moment, as they are doing with City. But in terms of the performance, I think Carsley's statement after the game said an awful lot. He said it was the third game of a 6-game run, and he expects to be back in the under-21s, and he's looking forward to that. I found that quite telling. That wasn't a man who wants the England job anymore. I think after the first 2 games, certainly after the announcement of him getting the position and just before the first game, it was very much a case of he's in the box seat. I think there was something went on behind the scenes with England the moment he stopped singing the national anthem, to be perfectly honest. I think his days were numbered from then, and I think that he's been soundly told that he's not in the job. And I think that experiment last night of what was basically playing 8 attackers, not 6, because his fullbacks were all over the place, and listening to the radio and listening to Stuart Pearce in particular, who castigated Pickford from about the 8th minute onwards. Didn't have much better to say about the keeper at the other end either, by the way, but that's probably for another day. It was very much a case of what the hell is going on here. We just seem to be throwing everything and then not being able to defend at all. And even when we got the opportunity to defend, the 3 that were left at the back just seemed to be all over the place. 3 goals disallowed or not given for various reasons. More than likely, all of them were offside. And we conceded 2 and lost. Could have lost 5-1. We lost 2-1. That doesn't bode well for Carsley at all. The speculation is going to mount about Eddie Howe. Other managers that are in the frame are slipping away. Thomas Tuchel's now being linked with Man United. You've got Jurgen Klopp, who's taken up a very, very interesting position with RB, Red Bull, and looking after their sporting interests in football. And Graham Potter's just hovering around like a bad smell over TV studios now. It was probably in coffee shops in London, but it's now TV studios.
Still apparently being paid 150,000 a week by Chelsea.
And you would hover around coffee shops in London if you were probably the only bloke who can afford it. So yeah, I think that this is going to continue. I think Eddie Howe's the name in the frame, and the London press and the Northwest press will revel in it for months now.
George, thoughts on the England game? Did you watch it? And does it mean we're going to have more speculation?
Well, I've got to confess I did watch it, and it was painful. And I'd like to remind you, lads, when we first talked about England and Carsley was on, that first game when he didn't sing the national anthem, that was gone for me. And people are saying, well, he didn't sing it when he was in the under-21s. That doesn't work like that. He's working for one of the most conservative organisations in England, the FA, who clamber over each other's shoulders to get their OBEs and their CBEs and their knighthoods. And they're not going to get one if the manager doesn't sing God Save the King. I'm sorry. Sorry. And so he was gone then for me. And after last night, just confirmed it. My God, what a mess. I mean, what's worse is he got the warnings in the first half and didn't heed them. He just went on with 2 fullbacks that can't make their minds up whether they want to be fullbacks or midfielders. And the net result is they fall between 2 stools. And Trent Alexander-Arnold is killing his career the way he's going at the moment. And the lad from Chelsea is going to be the same. The other lad's going to be the same. They've got to make their mind up what they are or what they're not. And if they can't, then what happens last night? I mean, it wasn't just a defeat. It was a Greek team that's never beaten England, has never, ever scored a goal at Wembley. And they did it all last night against Carsley's England. So I think whether he's even considered as a moot point, and I think you're all right, lad. You lads are right. He's slip of the tongue told you he is already on his way back to the under-21s. He's packed his bag and he's on his way. So it was quite sad. And the attitude towards England's changed over the years. It's strange. I was thinking about when I started to watch the match last night. I think one of the first England matches I watched on the floor of a house in Primrose Gardens in Wallsend, with a man called Jack Wright, who used to be my dad's manager in the Spitway, and used to get me dad the cup final tickets from Buckingham Palace. And it was to watch England play Hungary. And I remember after the 7-3 thrashing we got, being almost in tears as I walked all the way home down Chicken Road back to my granny's for me tea. It was so miserable. Well, it felt a bit like that last night. It was really so bad. It was awful. And as I say, what's worse is that they didn't learn. They didn't learn from any of it that happened. And everybody there's hardly anybody from Pickford all the way to Gordon who got any credit out of the match. There were some disappointing things even about Gordon, about his seemingly unwillingness to take the fullback on, something which he does time and time again for us, and does it with ease, with aplomb, as they say.
Yeah.
He wasn't even prepared to try it.
Do you think they've been told not to? Because Saka was the same, and he normally will go to anybody.
One wondered what the team orders were, and because on the telly, the commentators was the old Arsenal fullback,
Dixon.
Yeah, and he kept saying, "Well, they've never gone past anybody yet," and they hadn't. And we were watching situations at St James's Park that Gordon would skin the fullback inside and out, right foot and left foot. Never even attempted it last night. So, awful is the only way to describe it. It's the one-word description. As to Eddie Howe, well, I think we can relax, because I got a sneaking fancy they've already made their mind up who they want to put in there. And I think it'll be a Lampard or somebody like that.
I was told weeks ago it was Lampard. I was told weeks ago that Lampard had been given, more or less given the job, and I think that's why Ashley Cole's been shooed in already, to train to be part of the training team. I think they're going to go for that kind of, that kind of
relationship. Yeah. Well, that's my thoughts as well. So I think in terms of Eddie Howe, I think we can relax a little bit.
I think Lampard will be a good choice. By the way, I think Lampard will be a good choice, because I think the fact that Lampard did so well at Derby with the kids, bringing kids on. I mean, let's not forget he was the one who brought Mount through. I genuinely think that Lampard will surprise people, and I think he ticks all the boxes. He's clean living. He's very good with the media. He's an ex-England player who was well revered, but didn't win anything like a lot of England players, apart from the lads in '66. But ultimately, Alan saying, "Geez, Lampard," but I genuinely think Lampard will make a decent England manager. I think he just ticks all the boxes, because with the exception of Terry Venables, they never go for a maverick.
No, well, and the other thing he brings is he doesn't have much baggage to bring with him.
Yeah, that was what I mean.
Most of the managers, including Eddie Howe, would have baggage to bring with them. The first thing Eddie Howe would have to face was, well, fancy an England manager that got Bournemouth relegated. That's what he would have to face. So I see the sense in what we're saying. So great. That means we can relax a little bit as Magpies.
Wasn't it strange, though, trying to shoehorn Foden, Palmer and Bellingham into a team and not play a striker, leave the striker on the bench, try to shoehorn all those three in, and it's whether it was the plea of the press, and whether Carsley just fell for it, or whether it was a preordained thing that he had to pick Palmer, he had to pick Bellingham, he had to pick Foden. But it just shows you that, you know, we're talking about maverick managers, but way back, we talked for years and years, going right back to the 70s and probably earlier, about the fact that, you know, that the Rodney Marshes and the Alan Hudsons and Tony Currys of this world, Glenn Hoddle, you know, really got to look in for England because they were too talented, but they were too maverick, and they were too, you know, and I'm looking at these three and I'm thinking 3 fantastic players, all in their own right, but together you cannot blend those 3. There's no way that you can blend those 3. Palmer just wants to go off and do his own thing. Foden wants to drift and just go anywhere on the pitch that he wants to. And Bellingham, I think, judging by last night, Bellingham, from what all the commentators were saying, he was caught between a rock and a hard place. And what was also very interesting was that when you listen to the co-commentators on the radio, and Pierce in particular, and some of the other analysts that were butting in, you found that the Greeks were notorious for doing teams on the break. That's what their game's all about. And so we played with 8 strikers almost, and allowed them to come at us. And when they did come at us, you saw the calamity that was caused at the back. And you're just thinking to yourself, the total lack of organisation, or did Carsley honestly think that forward line, that 8-man forward line that he put out, because that's what it was, would just swamp the Greeks and just overpower them? Well, it didn't. I mean, just this is what happens. And maybe is Carsley going to be a class as a maverick manager now? I don't know. Has he done himself any favors? Probably not. But what he's shown is a distinct lack of probably interest, because he's blown a chance. The Greeks are 48th in the FIFA ranking. You know, 48th, and you're thinking to yourself, you're playing them at Wembley in front of 90,000. You shouldn't be in a situation that you ended up in. And we never really looked like we're going to score goals. It never felt as though that there was proper goal scoring opportunities. And that I think is entirely the nail in his coffin. I'm not bothered that he doesn't sing the national anthem. It doesn't bother me one iota. And there's somebody put up on the thread the number of players that still sing "God Save the Queen" rather than "God Save the King," and it doesn't get picked up on. But no, I think it's the nature, and I think for the last week and a half, from when the squad was picked, that's all the press talked about, wasn't it? Was Foden, Palmer, Bellingham, how do we squeeze them in? And he fell for it, and he went, well, I'll just play them all, thinking they were all better than they are.
The problem is now as well, you know, there's no pride in the shirt, and players get paid so much to play for their club, but they don't get half as much playing for their country. I just think that I think as well, I think most of the players probably feel the same about the Nations League as we do. It's a waste of time. They probably feel better to play the odd friendly, and it's once upon a time it was pride to play for England, and at the moment it just feels like everything else in this country. It just feels like a bit of a letdown.
I think you've also got the other situation. You've got the England situation where you're away on international duty for 10 days. You've got players. Most of those players are playing in the Champions League, where they're away for 3 or 4 days on a Champions League visit. You've got away games. Some of them are probably only home once a week. You know, there's little chance to have any family life. We've seen it in the press already with the conversations from Rodri before he was injured about playing too many games. We've seen it. We've seen Carvajal. He's done his knee in again. You know, another player, another top class player, playing far too many games, and this is just going to exacerbate. And I think the players, when it gets to England in a situation like that yesterday, they'll hold back. They'll not put their full 100% into what is ostensibly, as you say, Steve, a friendly and nothing competition. You know, and Harry Kane's probably sitting there tied between 2 stools in a way. He's thinking, God, I could get more goals, but at the same time he's going, well, I'm getting a rest as well.
There's nobody coming through either. I mean, you know, for years we've been blessed. We had Gary Lineker, then we had Alan Shearer, then we had Harry Kane. We've had 3 out-and-out goal scorers, people who can put the ball in the back of the net. Now, I know we didn't play with a striker last night, But is Solanke going to be the next Alan Shearer or Harry Kane? Is Ollie Watkins going to be the next Alan Shearer or Harry Kane? We don't have somebody coming through who can do the job. Ivan Toney's not the answer. So I think for the first time, we are going to struggle. And I tell you what this probably has been on the radar since Anthony Gordon won the trophy as a Ben, and he was played through the middle. We didn't have a striker then. So the alarm bells have probably been coming for a while. I think we've missed the opportunity to win anything. I think we'll gradually get worse. And I think the next England manager is going to have a bit of a job on his hands, Mitch.
Well, yeah.
Well, we're paying the price, I guess, in many ways for the way the Premier League works and the lack of progression that some players have at clubs and then have to move on. You know, we're talking about Foden and Palmer not being able to fit them into the same side. Well, Pep realised that was coming, and when Chelsea come along with a wad of cash, he said, right, let's take it. I don't have that problem anymore. Off you go. And it just happens that he's gone to Chelsea and become more of an arrogant individual than he would have been at Man City. But at Man City, he probably wouldn't have got much of a look in because Pep would have made the hard decisions and went with one of them. And Pep's obviously made his choice in Foden. You're right, in that under-21 squad, in terms of central goal scorers, there wasn't much, and that's how Gordon ended up playing in that role. But where is the next English striker coming from? Is there anybody in the Premiership that you can look at and think? Maybe's the young lad at Ipswich.
Delap.
Delap, yeah. But he's what, 19? He's already scoring in the Premiership, which is fantastic. But as we've seen with Asula at 21, you're far from the finished article. And we have got this sort of skill gap as we've been developing. We've got a surfeit of fullbacks. We've got a surfeit of talented midfielders. But you're absolutely right. There's nobody there leading the line. Because if you look through all the clubs, even some of them, their second choice strikers aren't English.
Yeah, I'm in a great position of remembering what was like, you know, in the heydays. Can you imagine an England team that had the choice of Milburn, Mortensen, Lofthouse? You know, any one of them could have took the line, and others behind them. And then later on, you get people like Brian Clough, who didn't get into the team at all because he couldn't hold his knife and fork the right bloody way. You know, it had all that rubbish. And that's why I say about this Conservative FA, once Cardsley didn't sing that anthem, he was gone for me.
Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know what he's. I don't know what his rapping's like. I don't want to lose that comment. Mark Slavin says, "It's good in this generation, jump on. Great for club, not so good for country. What's his rapping like?"
I was going to say, do you think the FA look at it and think, and those around the coaching squad look and think Foden, Palmer, and Bellingham? Do they think these lads can morph into Spain 2010, Spain 2006? You know, you look at that and you've got Busquets and Xavi and Villa, Pedro, Iniesta, Puyol, Piqué, fantastic footballers, all came from the one club. But Foden, Palmer, and Bellingham are not going to morph the England team into what ostensibly was Spain in 26 through to 2010 either. It's just not going to happen. And you know, Spain managed to play without a recognised striker for years. Barcelona did, you know, until Man City, you know, managed to get their hands on the flying Norwegian. Then it was exactly the same with them. They were happy to play with that sort of movement. Yes, they had Aguero, but I don't think that the quality among those players. I think they're individuals, and I don't think any of them are really team players. Certainly when it comes to England, because at the end of the day, you look at Foden and you look at Bellingham in particular, and you look at the people who are coaching them during the week when they're at their club, and I suppose Palmer to some extent as well. But you're looking at that, and then you're thinking, well, who's coaching with England? You know, and are they getting any of that? Are they really going to be developing from being around side? And I think Foden, Palmer, and Bellingham are better off a part and being the kingpins in that club than they ever will be. And I think probably the time now is to go the other way and to develop an England team that can go out regardless of personalities and put performances in. You know,
we need to have a recognised, in my opinion, a recognised system. I think if you have an 11 of good players who have a recognised system, they know their jobs and they do their jobs, they're always going to beat a team of 11 individuals with greater talent.
Yeah.
And last night, you had Foden and Palmer, who both wanted to just go where they wanted.
Yeah.
Bellingham, at least, had one eye on the system, whatever it was. And that's, for me, why he looked so bloody awful at times, because he was caught in two stools. Do I go forward? Do I not? He's sort of dancing in this sort of funny no man's land. So there's three players out the game entirely on some of these counter-attacks. And that's the problem for me. And that was always the problem, go back when we had this discussion about, can we make Gerrard and Lampard play in the same team? Well, what you do is you don't. You go with the hot hand and you play a system that gets the best out of whoever's the hot hand and is in form, and the other one has to wait his turn, thank you very much, on the bench, and put your work in and prove to me you need to be in that side once I've made my decision with you. We tried all sorts of systems to try and shoehorn them into something when somebody like Paul Scholes should have been probably in the side more often than he was, and he got missed out while they were trying to shoehorn Lampard and Gerrard in.
Yeah.
You know, we can go through that time immemorial in England sides when you look at it, and it's fascinating to see. We're finally, somebody's gone, right, let's put everybody in and have a go, but he didn't have a system that they could, either they didn't understand it, or they just reverted to type, and it's probably a bit of both.
But they didn't really have a go. They only went half measures.
Yeah,
and if you do that, that's when you fall between two stools.
Yeah, interesting stuff. We'll move on from England. 35 minutes into the show already. You get us talking, we cannot stop. As always, plenty to get through though on a Friday night, and most of you love this music, so I'll play it now. The day I'm out where we ask you to send in photos of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, and it's Magnus from the Fans Forum who has sent this one in. This is him years ago, before he looked like Orson Welles and many other people, taken in Everton's tunnel, meeting Alan Shearer.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Great.
Very, very good photo, that, Magnus. So thank you for sharing that with us. He's got one with a few other players as well, but I thought I'd show War Al. We haven't had him on for a while. If you've got a photo of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, join the Facebook group and like the Facebook page. Stick them on there, or drop us a message on there, or join me on X at Steve Wraith and tag us in it, and we will pick it up so we can play this music next week. Just seeing Gazza on there just reminds us he was on at the City Hall this week, and the photos of him coming out of the event were great. Great to see him looking so well, and well done everybody at the City Hall for a wonderful event. Everyone seemed to have a great time, and thank you to Ian, who was gifted another 10 NUFC Matters memberships to various people in the chat. So thank you for doing that, Ian. Much appreciated, mate. That is fantastic. Lots of people asking various questions to individuals on the panel. Most of them are quite similar to you, Mitch, really, which is one we get every week from this show and the professional show. Any sponsor gossip, Mitch says done. And Steve Middlemist, does the panel think sponsors will be forthcoming before the Premier League meeting, or will we be slow to react like we have been so far? Which I noticed that seems to be circulating around social media. A lot of people think we're being slow, and we have been slow for a few years. Afternoon panel, has Mitch heard anything on sponsorship? Says Gary. It's a question we get asked every week, Mitch. I mean, from my perspective, I've not heard anything. Gary's saying, evening, everyone. Just wondering, can the guys get any further information into Riyadh Air's sponsorship of Atletico Madrid Stadium? Interesting timing. So what's your thoughts on all of that?
I'll start with that one. That gives you a market value.
Yeah.
Gives you a benchmark that nobody can deny. It's there. And so if we were to do the same with a similar Saudi sponsor, nobody can whinge about it because we've got a benchmark. Premier League's bigger league than La Liga. You could probably put one a comparable size as Atletico Madrid now, in terms of other sponsorships and in terms of impact around the world. So I think we've got a benchmark there. I think it's a clever benchmark. Very deliberate, I believe, from what I've heard. I've heard a few things, but nothing concrete. Something that's I've found fascinating over the last week, because obviously I've been talking to quite a few people because of the various discussions around the whole APT stuff. And the consensus from people like Kieran McKenna and other people who talk regularly on football finance is that the time to do deals is now. Because there are a number of rules there that have been ruled unlawful, and therefore, while they are deemed unlawful, you do not have to follow them. That is the legal position. And then if they wanted to come back retrospectively, a very simple defence is, well, the rules weren't clear at that time because a number of your rules were unlawful. And to me, that sounds a very reasonable way to look at it. Are they being slow? We don't know. We don't know what's lined up. The last time I berated them for being slow, the very next day something was announced and I was eating humble pie. Thank you very much. So I'm not going to go down that route again. I think with very astute individuals, I'm looking at people like Jacobo Solis within PIF, who's the head of the European investments, who has very, very much one eye on Newcastle United. And I think we should be and are. I can't believe that we're not looking at all of these options right now. We've got a challenge with the Premier League in terms of they want to have this emergency meeting. Fair enough. If they want to put new rules in place, again, there's a problem with the voting system because of the way the way abstentions work. You have to have a 2-to-1 majority, but technically, the way the rules are written, if you had 17 abstentions, 2 votes yes and 1 vote no, it will pass. And I don't know any other similar body that has rules about voting where effectively abstentions help people pass it. If you're abstaining, it's an indication that you're not happy and that there are further issues that you need clarified to take your vote to a definite yes. And therefore, abstentions mean things should not pass on the back of a number of abstentions, but they will under the way the current Premier League rules are written. Looks at Crystal Palace very hard. If you look at the number of times they have abstained, Gary's right. There were rumours, and I think they're more than rumours, that there was a number of deals were parked. I think is the word I was used to me, simply because they were going to be difficult. Now, bearing in mind on the APT losses that the Premier League had, one of them was over how the database that they use to assess associated party transactions. And therefore, could we just railroad those deals through now? Yeah, probably. But I would suggest we probably want to ramp them up. Because if we are going to make hay while the sun shines, let's do it properly. And I would love to see them do this. I think we've played very nice. I think we've played very much by the rules. We've not flexed in any way, shape or form. But that patience must surely run out at some stage. And like I say, when you get credible people saying, if you want to do any deals, get them done in the next 2 weeks, I think that's something you should be listening to.
Would it open up seeking compensation, Mitch?
Oh, if they could prove that if a body, as Keith would say, could prove that we've suffered financial loss out of that, those individuals probably could. How that then pans out and how long that takes, I've got absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
Ian, also with PIF not owning Atletico Madrid, the rules in Spain are different as well.
Yeah.
So there's two things there that are not comparable, but what is important is the value. And you want to say stadium sponsorship, do you have another example of this sponsorship? Well, funny enough, yes, we do. Here it is. And it's with this Saudi company. So I think that's where it could help with, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think this is where I would hope we're going to be shown to have some brains in place. But it's also where scrambling around looking for a new CEO isn't really helpful at the minute as well.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Steve?
I've got two thoughts on this, Steve. One, I think it was on the Professionals a couple of weeks ago, it was mentioned that there'd been a partnership event conducted by Seller a few weeks ago. And that was, I think what was seen in the newspaper was that various commercial deals had been spun out of that for the Live Golf. Now, the very fact that it was held up here in the Northeast, the very fact that Newcastle United were there, Newcastle United were very much hosting it.
And then the chairman's off playing in the Dunhill Links in a Newcastle United training top.
Yeah, all of that. And I think when, if people were aware of some of the people who were invited to pitch, I think they would be very surprised. And I would expect something positive to come out of that sort of partnership connection that Seller are building up on the back of it for Newcastle United as well. The other thing is, I think you mentioned there the question of this PSR situation and the database that came out of the court case. I think the big question there revolved around, when we talked about benchmarking, revolved around the actual data within that database and who had input the data, where the data came from. So, let's, for example, you've got a database and somebody goes and asks the question to the Premier League, or presents the Premier League with some figures that says, Newcastle United want to sponsor, and it's a shoe company, and it's X amount of millions per year. And the Premier League's going to the database and going, oh, look, shoe company deals are actually only worth that much on a rough estimate. So the database is telling us that it should only come out at Y, and it shouldn't come out as X. So sorry, Newcastle, you can only have Y and not X. But the question that was brought in court was, where did they get the Y from in the first place? Where did that information come from? Oh, it came from a friendly person who is not really an expert in the game, but just happened to be at the keyboard and tapped some data in, and it was data that he invented off his own bat. And then the expert who bearing in mind, wasn't torn apart by the court case. She was independent. Her independence remained independent because she relied on the database. So she didn't turn. It wasn't her that made the decision. It was very much relying on the data that had been input in the first place by an unknown entity. So that's why she came out clean and why she didn't have a problem. But the whole process around that database, plus the very fact that nobody else was not allowed to see what's in that database, it's very much commercial in confidence. So you're benchmarking yourself or trying to against a figure that you don't know anything about. So it's like the chicken and the egg. You're caught in a right dodgy situation in terms of, well, you know, am I setting our targets too high? Where are we with all of this? And some unknown person is coming around and telling you that you can't have it, you know? So if the data is corrupt in the first place, I don't mean corrupt as in corruption, but corrupt as in it's not viable. It's
Yeah.
Then that's the whole gist, and that's what City were getting at. And I think this is where the clarifications that City have gone back to the tribunal and asked for are around this type of thing. The detail that wasn't explained within the 176 pages, but has allowed to be interpreted by chairman of the other 19 or 18 clubs to say, oh yeah, well, everything's all right, don't worry about it. You go, no, but your data was wrong in the first place. Your information, the way that you're collating it, the way you're gathering it, what you're benchmarking it against, it's all wrong. So it's all of that is now hovering around, and that's where this extraordinary general meeting that they're going to hold next week will. I mean, who wouldn't want to be sitting in the corner of that room watching them all go at each other, because I think City are going to go in all guns blazing, and everybody else is as well. And you can imagine it's going to be a bloodbath. This is a Quentin Tarantino moment, I think, in the Premier League meetings. You know, there's going to be blood on the carpet.
Go on, Neil. Go on.
Yeah, again, that database also doesn't take into account things like what is that value worth to a different market.
Yeah.
And so you talk about Saudi, where 70% of the population are 35 and under, and they're wanting to get their young population active and into sport in every way possible, because they've got a big healthcare problem coming on the horizon with levels of diabetes and obesity in the country. And so that's what the drive towards sport of all kinds is part of. And so you've got a very different target market in the Middle East to Europe, for example. And again, you come back to deals like the Noon deal and what it's been worth to Noon to have that shirt sleeve sponsorship. Well, it's quarter the deficit to Amazon, their main competitor in the region. That's worth more than a hell of a lot than 8.5 million. You see the deals that PAF are doing. People are talking on the screen about the AZN part purchase. Well, that makes bloody sense. They're in the AZN carries so much pay-per-view boxing. Why shouldn't we own part of it? Because most of the boxing's happening in and around Saudi Arabia or underneath their banner in another country at the moment. So of course they want to want a piece of all of it. Why should somebody else benefit from the hard work and benefit from the pay-per-view money around the world? Because you've got to remember DAZN has presence worldwide.
And you've also got to remember, Mitch, that these clubs, that not just Newcastle United and Man City, but football clubs in the Premier League are more and more international. Their owners are becoming more multi-leveled. So as the owners start to buy up other corporations and other companies, then that shrinks the market even more and more. And then you've got the situation of this interest-free loans saga, where it hasn't even been brought in. And I actually heard somebody talking yesterday about that part of the ruling, and said that, well, this is going to be another can of worms, because an interest-free the interest on a loan to, let's say, a commercial interest to Brighton, the interest rate would normally be, if you are going into the open market to a bank, the interest rate would be a lot higher than it would be to a Manchester United or an Arsenal. because the risk, because of the value of an Arsenal compared to Brighton would be a bigger risk to the bank to lend them 300 million than it would to let. So the interest rate would be lower to an Arsenal, and this is what they're going to start doing. They're going to start cutting each other's throats now. So when they eventually do find out that the compound interest has to be charged, they'll then start arguing among themselves about what the rate happens to be. So to me, I go back to what I said on the professionals on Tuesday night. The whole Premier League structure is now bust in my mind.
Yeah.
The way that it's been put together, the way that the voting happens, the way that it invites collusion, it invites cartel behavior, it invites anti-competitive behavior to take place. And you can see that even now when they've been caught out doing anti-competitive things that are against competition law, they're still saying, "Oh, we just need to tweak it. Which are just a slight change in their head, but in law, it doesn't, because that rule's been chucked out. That's been shown to be illegal. Full stop. You can't suddenly start to bring it down and go, well, at what point does it not become legal, or does it not become illegal? When does it suddenly become legal? It's illegal. Full stop. It hits the base.
Well,
it hits the floor. That's the whole top and bottom of it, you know.
The interest-free loan was a big eye-opener to me. And I had, you probably heard us say on here, we spoke with sympathy for Everton. God, got no sympathy anymore. 400 million in interest-free loans, and that's the first time I'd even heard about it. Now, if to start asking them for interest, well, goodbye Everton, isn't it? I mean, it wouldn't be able to live. And the other thing, side of it that's intrigued me is somebody like Nick DeMarco coming out and declaring something unlawful. Well, so what happens to the people operating that? Because that means that the people operating unlawful rules are themselves being unlawful. And the collusion thing takes it out of being a civil matter to becoming a criminal matter. That changes the whole dimension of everything, and really does put people like Richard Masters and others in freedom and certainly financially in serious bother. And I saw one this morning, I don't know if you lads have picked it up, Noel Gallagher of a certain Manchester City fan is getting up a round robin, a letter to send to all the clubs, the Premier clubs and fans, and say, we want Richard Masters sacked. Now, he's not going to let that go. So if Keith's looking for a stalking horse to run a competition thing, he may be the man. He may be the man. But it really is heavy stuff once they get sort of people with the sort of money that he's got start getting involved. But for me, the unlawful thing is a killer for the Premier League, because those that are operating those unlawful laws are being unlawful themselves, and so it becomes a totally different ball game altogether.
Yeah, but their comfort blanket that they've got, George, is the fact that written into their rules is that nobody can take them to court when they break the law.
Yeah,
so
but
it's gonna have to, not within the 20 anyway. So it's gonna have to take, as Keith said, an outside organisation that shows loss and shows that they've got a loss to it, to then be able to take it under competition law, and then they can be fined and they can be hit with the 10% of that.
But those rules, Steve, are written like non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah.
Non-disclosure agreements and things like that are fine, but you cannot protect breaking the law with agreement like that. And I would argue that this rule that we couldn't do this and couldn't do that to get our takeover through, because those rules are unlawful, we just forget it. It doesn't apply, because you can't protect law breaking by having an NDA. It doesn't work like that.
This is why Lord Panic's earning £15,000 an hour.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. We are approaching halfway through the show. So as always, at this point, we will go to the ads. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and click the share button. Share it to your other social media. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month, then hit the join button under this video today. We also help the food bank on this channel. Visit nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It takes you to the match day bucket where you can donate some money virtually. Some events for your diary in aid of Dementia Matters. The Long Sands will be reforming and be supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band at the Cluny in Newcastle on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets are £15 pre-sale from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January 2025. Tickets available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. And an evening with the Entertainers takes place on the 24th of January 2025. Telephone the box office 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge at the Gateshead Leisure Centre is now open. 7 talk-ins for £99. Joe Allen will be hosting talk-ins with Lee Clark, John Anderson, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Supermac, Steve Watson, John Beresford, all between the dates of January and July. £99 for 7 talk-ins, newcastlelegends.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our NUFC Matters fanzine, £20 for 4 issues with all proceeds going to Dementia Matters. If you live overseas, it is £50 for 4 issues. To order now, go to newcastlelegends.com. Okay, welcome back to the 3 Amigos. We're going to have a little bit of this. And if you're easily offended, probably better to go make a cup of tea now, I think is the best thing to say, because some of these are near the bone, I would say. But as always, I do tend to siphon out some of the worst. Anyway, we've got a great one here. Can you name that painting, lads?
Mona Lisa.
The Mona Lisa, yes, very good. Well done. We've had a couple of Viz ones, and I've always got to be careful with these. This Viz letter is brilliant. James Brown once sang, Papa's got a brand new bag. However, this isn't exciting as it seems. My dad bought a new bag for work in the mid-80s because he worked at Ferrero, and his old one stank of brake linings. Being a father now myself, I bought a new bag from Matalan for $5.99 because I accidentally squashed a banana in my old one. Being a father with my new bag isn't the big deal Mr. Brown makes it out to be, from Alan Farley and gone. I absolutely howled when I read that, by the way. I'm sure you probably are at home. In 1980s, by the way, I was riding my bike. I fell off and I hurt my knee. I'm telling you this now because we didn't have social media then.
Or a means to apply for compensation.
Yeah.
No bike. This is a good one as well. I googled missing medieval servant. It came back, page not found.
Oh dear me.
And I loved this one as well. like everybody else, it was like the day of the triples I put out last night. It was like the start of day of the triples. Everybody was in this out in the sky, looking into the sky for the Northern Lights. But this one's been circulating. Unbelievable Northern Lights display over Bedlington, Northumberland tonight, and there he is, Jason Tyndall. Cheers, Andy. Great one, that son. And well done to this guy. He's got one of those new fancy eating trays.
Classic.
There's been a new sauce out this week, lads. I'm not sure whether you've seen it. There we go. Viagra ketchup for that sloppy sausage.
Oh.
And this was a wonderful sign outside a tent in Glastonbury. Please don't dial 911. These are screams of pleasure. Thanks for teaching me the meaning of plethora, lads. It means a lot.
Oh.
Dear.
And another sign, stiff nipples, refrigeration and air conditioning, license to chill. Another one from Jimmy Moore, this as well. Skinny dicks, halfway in.
Oh, Jimmy, man.
Needs that Viagra ketchup.
He needs to, yeah. And Waitrose, love life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Complete signage fail there at Waitrose. The Rooftop Terrace Cafe is located on the top floor.
Never.
Well done, M&S. And Dave's maintenance shop. We can repair anything. Please knock hard on the door because the bell doesn't work.
Confidence boost.
Pest control and hygiene solution. Nothing wrong with that, you wouldn't think, until you see the actual registration plate. And this one from Stephen Kennedy. He says, someone's a clever sod. 907x815. Someone's actually bothered to work it out and put equals 731,205. Very good. Very good. Maybe the owner. NUSCC, the Newcastle United Scotland Supporters Club as well. This was brilliant on their page this week. An artist impression of our new stadium.
Yeah.
That's got to be AI.
Oh, it is. I mean, can you imagine that? That would be fantastic, though. I love the idea of turrets like that. That is absolutely brilliant. And Sunderland have opened a fan zone, lads. Not sure whether you've seen it, to increase match day revenue. Thanks to Alan Miller for posting that on our Facebook page. Looks fantastic, mate. And cheesy chips for everybody. Too many signs to mention on this one. Thank you. I think this was Stephen Kennedy who sent us this. I'm not going to read them all out, mate, but I got the picture. I just wanted to let you know that I got it. I think my favorite one there. I never ever imagined it would be something called Butthole Road, but there is. I did make sure. Unbelievable that. And I do like weird and wonderful things that people send. I love this. Gray's Monument, one of the biggest monuments in Newcastle, of course. My hands were sweating when I read this and was sent this. Look at this guy looking over the shoulder of Earl Grey or scaffolders Tommy Walker, Kirk Street Biker, Newcastle, and Sidney Watson of Noel Avenue, Winlayton Mill, who've been erecting scaffolding in preparation for the cleaning of Gray's Monument. My hands were sweating. Unbelievable. Thank you for that. I did like brilliant
147 steps.
Yeah, but now this one I'm going to have to read out because you won't be able to see it all. This was brilliant, and this is one of those men scorned. He tells me Chris might be a bit angry. This was on Facebook. Wedding dress would fit the larger lady, quite chavvy in style, so it's super cheap slapper. Had a lucky escape, so it's brand new, which is more than can be said for the intended wearer's well-worn. You local only, as it's collect only. I will not be posting this item. It's size 12, I think. She was prone to lying, so it's possibly a 14 or a 16. Wow. He wasn't happy, was he? He wasn't happy. I wonder if he sold it. Thank you to Stephen Kennedy. He says, get on, Stevie, get your tonsils going. 2, 3, 4. Hands, touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you, sweet carrot lime. Very good. Swede, carrot, lime. Excellent, son. And this one, a Star Trek one. Wesley, will you scan for new pussycat? What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
You didn't need encouraging.
Well, people like the singing ones. There's a sign on the toilet as well. Here we go. Poop with friends and poop alone. They should add that to all of those doors, shouldn't they? And red hot willy peppers, lads. Wow. Brilliant stuff. And when the house that you designed is finally done and you realise maybe you should have gotten different windows.
Yes.
Another one of those weird photographs as well. It was like, what happened to her legs? Then I realised it's a bag of popcorn.
Yeah.
And right now they're arguing over who lost the keys.
Yeah.
And Des, thanks for this one. Breaking news: Eric Van Haag has Ten Hag has was caught speeding in Manchester today. He was desperate to get 3 points, and well, there it is, rock bottom.
Yeah.
And this was a good one as well from Jimmy. Put a bone in a shoe and let me dog patrol my yard.
Yeah.
keeping away the intruders. And 100% Mags, he says, here's the Star Wars one for the show, guys. He says, me and my son have been sneaking out in the middle of the night in our Ewok and Chewbacca costumes just to mess with our neighbours' trail cams.
Fantastic. Well,
very good. And I wanted to shave my private area. I used my phone camera as a mirror. It all went great until I started getting likes on Facebook. Top four. How come when Nigella licks jam off her fingers on the telly, I get a raging, but when my missus does it, I feel slightly nauseous? Are we buying the wrong brand of jam? Top three. My microwave keeps asking for sacrifices. Number two. Worst superhero ever. Barrier Man.
Barrier Man.
And the winner this week. Oh my God, someone's proposing. Thank you for them. I think they were as clean as I could get. If you've got any tweets, follow the Facebook group, like the Facebook page at Steve Wraith on X, send us over to them. And those of you who've gone back in the kitchen to avoid being offended, you can come back in now. That is the end of Tweet of the Week for this week. Mitch, have you got Sylvester Stallone's watch on again, says Yvonne?
I have got a Panerai on, yes.
There you go. And we had a question for the lads from Craig Banks. He says, why is it that Kevin Keegan has no statue or stands named after him? He played and managed the club and was manager during a time that everyone of a certain age remembers. Thanks. Mitch, why do you think we haven't got one?
Because I think he would have to consent to that, and at the minute he still seems very distant. And he obviously has his reasons, and I don't know what they are. Obviously connected with his second time round with Ashley, there's no doubt about that. And I think one of the best things they could do outside of everything else that's going on is get Kevin Keegan engaged with Newcastle United again.
Yeah.
Properly. If there's a way to do that going forward over time, yes, it's not a priority. But he has so much deep connection to us. For me, 2 times round. Once as a player, when he rocked up, 2 times bloody European Player of the Year, and everybody's saying he's coming back to England, and then he rocked up at Newcastle United in the northeast of England in the second division, much to so many people's surprise, and did what he did as a player. And then second time round as a manager, we were headed to places Sunderland haven't even been. That's how bad we were. And for him to do what he did and turn everything around was nothing short of phenomenal. And then to build on that and grow what he did was beyond that. And what a ride. What an absolute ride it was. And so for me to haven't seen that connection broken then under Ashley, and I think that's part of what drove me and Steve to do some of the things we did with NUSC and then turning it to NUST and probably why we both got bloody fails at the Premier League as troublemakers. And all of that. For me, it would be fantastic to get the club to try and reach out to Kevin to get him re-engaged, because he's definitely still disengaged.
Yeah,
for me, in some way, and that's a real shame.
Steve, I mean, would you like to see some kind of tribute to Kevin? I mean, we've had this discussion before on here. You know, I've always said that, you know, I helped raise 5,000 of the £10,000 towards the plaque that has Joe Harvey's name on it outside the Gallagher. But I think that's an embarrassment. And I know the Fairs Club do as well, who got it up there. They were thankful that the club at the time gave them the opportunity to put something up. But, you know, there should be a statue of Joe Harvey at the ground first and foremost. And I think even Kevin would probably say that is the case as well. But what's your feeling? I mean, I think, you know, we see the Daglish stand. We've seen so many different things done up and down the country. Kevin deserves something at the club, surely to God.
He does. What I would say is that from 1982 to the present day, Kevin has never, ever been anything other than idolised by the fans. He's never lost his love, and the fans have never lost his love for them in that 42 years. But at the same time, I think Kevin was disjointed from the club from 96 to 2008. And then when he came back, he was then disjointed again from 2010. He was only here, 18 months or something. And I think from 2010 onwards, I think knowing Kevin as we do, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's very much you know, from our experience, very much an emotional chap. I think when things hurt Kevin, they hurt him an awful lot, and I think he moves on, but he doesn't look back. I think that I think the longer it goes, I think the love of Newcastle United doesn't have as much gloss to it as the love of the supporters and what the supporters have given him back. And I think it's quite a strange juxtaposition between club and fan. His mistrust of the club and the club hierarchy doing him over probably twice. Probably not one that he's done over a third time. Probably maybe he feels as though he was done over a third time. I don't know. When it took so long, possibly for something to happen under the current regime, and then it didn't quite click in, when other people were getting something. So I think it's probably something that lies very much in Kevin's court now. If Kevin wanted it, he would make it known through the dozens and dozens of outlets that he could, whether it's fans, whether it's the press, his media friends, his friends from the entertainers, from that group of players, his relationship with those players that still exist, with quite a few of them. I think we would have heard long ago by now, especially at the gigs that he's put on in the Northeast. You know, he's regularly up here, probably regularly gets asked the question behind the scenes, but I can't recall him ever on a stage being asked about it and coming up with an answer that would give any indication that he would want it. So I think maybe it's best at the moment. Certainly feels better for me. I would hate to dwell on the fact that the most annoying thing is that there's not a statue for him, because my memories are all about what he did as a player, and as we've just seen there, what he did as a manager, what he did as a person, what he did in the community for Newcastle United, how he put Newcastle United on the map, and how he introduced us to what was fabulous round of football during the entertainers. And I was going to finish off, Steve, by saying, and you know what, if there are some younger people out there who perhaps have not been made aware or forgotten, or if any of the older ones have forgotten, come along to that entertainers event in January and you'll hear it, and it'll all be reminisced again, and you'll hear all about, and you'll re-engage with what that period of football was all about. Probably the best period of football that Newcastle fans have had since the days of the 50s.
I don't think he's recovered from bringing me on as I'm his final substitution in football. He's never managed since in the entertainers game. He brought me on for Pavel Srnicek in the last 5 minutes, and I gave a penalty away. Anthony Hutton from Big Brother dived. It was never a penalty. Anyway, moving on. George,
is that the last vision you have of him just walking out to Kingston Park shaking his head?
Yeah, exactly. The abuse I got off some of the entertainers going on the pitch as well was shocking. Never mind some of the supporters. Anyway,
I was there, don't worry.
I play the villain well. George, what's your feelings on
just
statue and Joe Harvey as well?
Just to coin a phrase, I'd love it if he came back. But it really is about Kevin, isn't it? As Steve put it nicely, he's bound to feel aggrieved at the way in which his periods at the club ended. His periods at the player was fine because he flew off on his helicopter and that was great. But after that, his period as a manager ended not in the sweetest of things, with that stupid stuff with John Hall and the brochure for the Platinum Club and all that sort of rubbish. And as Steve says, wears his heart in his sleeve. But also, I think, as he showed in that I'd love it thing with Alec Ferguson, when it gets under his skin, he can't help but see it. He can't help but feel it. And they're the things that would have to be got over by the current regime, and they've indirectly already, as Steve hinted at, kind of drawn his fingernails back a little bit with some of the things they've done. So there's a lot of hard work before we get to the stages of thinking about statues and things like that. I just want Kevin Keegan associated and working with Newcastle United. I had to return to a theme, lads. The thing that's missing in our club at the moment is somebody in the hierarchy who can do what a Kevin Keegan did, can do what a Rafa Benitez did, can do what an Amanda Staveley did. And that's relate to the fans, relate to the area, relate to the Geordie dream. There ain't anybody in there now. Eddie Howe's got it, but none of the senior people seem to have it at all. In fact, it's sadly missing, greatly missing. Now, that's the sort of thing that somebody like Kevin Keegan could do in a blink, and he'd have everybody eating out of his hands. But whether they could persuade him to do it is another matter. Yeah, I mean, it would be really great to have him back. I think somebody wrote on the strap before what he did for the club. You can't underestimate that him coming back when he did to us as a player, as Neil put quite nicely, saved us from going to places he haven't been. And then he came back as a manager and did what he did it all over again, and made some crucial signings like Killer Kilcline and that sort of thing, and then built the entertainers team and got knocked back with that at the end. But then the Ashley debacle was just unbelievable. For that to even happen to somebody like Kevin Keegan makes my heart bleed. It really does when I realise what was going on now behind the scenes, and that he was reduced to, so rumours have it, and allegedly to decking an idiot, like a little gangster like Wise, to make his point, and then suffer what he did at the hands of Ashley, who he eventually got back in court. But some of that monetary victory, but to Kevin that would be a hollow victory, because he was going again the place he loved. That was Newcastle United Football Club. So a lot of work to be done. But yes, it would be fantastic to have Kevin Keegan involved, and nobody would deserve it more than him. And I would be absolutely delighted.
it's all about opinions. Andy's is quite different. I would say to a majority. He says, I disagree about getting Keegan involved again. My greatest memory as a Newcastle fan was the 92-93 season. His legacy was damaged, though, forever when he came back and then sued the club thereafter. It's an interesting point, Andy. It's an interesting point.
But yeah, was he supposed to take a smack in the face off Ashley and do nothing about it? Nah. That's Kevin Keegan. Sorry, lads, if I'm getting you all worked up again. Take a couple of paracetamol for the time being. He was treated abominably in every sense of the word. He's undermined by people ringing up clubs and trying to change transfer deals he negotiated. International clubs that he'd sold his reputation on to get international players to come to Newcastle United. All of that turned on his side. Is he supposed to take that and say out? Wow, no, it's not going to happen. It just was all.
Yeah, I think the other thing what people forget about Keegan was when he came in '82. That period from him leaving Liverpool to ending up with us, when he was European Footballer of the Year twice, he was the first real big sort of superstar. We'd had George Best and Bobby Charlton, people like that, and Best's career had gone down the pan. But Keegan on the international stage around Europe was phenomenal. There's an absolutely, from a commercial point of view as well, he was probably the first of those footballers. I mean, I don't think. Well, we know that Best didn't make that much money, and what he did make, he threw away. But what Keegan had the ability to do was to take it to that next level. Very well managed. Very much one of the very first to catch up on the commercial side of being a player. Prior to that, it was the commercial side of being a club, and especially in Europe with, say, Bayern Munich and their tie-ups with Adidas and stuff like that. But Keegan became a brand on his own. I suppose that Keegan was the predecessor of the like where Beckham became.
Yeah.
When Beckham left England and went to Europe and became the global phenomenon, not just in football terms, but in commercial terms. And Keegan did that to a certain extent in the 80s as well.
Sponsorship deals and stuff.
For to come to us was just unbelievable. Yes, his England career was over, but he was only 32 or something, But then he was able to take that club by the boots laces and drag us out of that division, and also at the same time make players of Chrissy Waddle and Peter Beardsley. And I don't think we would have seen anything like we saw if that triumvirate of Beardsley, Keegan, and Waddle was probably one of the best triumvirates you'll ever see it in black and white shirts in terms of what they produced. And I know it was the second division, but the football was phenomenal. It was great to watch and it was entertaining. And that was the precursor to the entertainers, if you ask me. We went through the doldrums after Keegan left, but he then had the ability to bring it back in a superb way and bringing Beardsley back with him.
It's amazing his impact around the world, though. Nice little segue. People talking about your shirt here tonight, Juve's third shirt. I've got to say, if we get this quality next season on the third shirt, it'll fly off the shelves. This is next level. This is superb piece of kit. Bought me yesterday by one of my friends from Hamburg, B. It was an early birthday present, bless her. And so thank you to her for this. And her and her husband Wilson are actually both connected to St. Pauli, the other club in Hamburg. And yet everybody in Hamburg loves Kevin Keegan. Mm-hmm. The St. Pauli fans love Kevin Keegan. Talk about Kevin Keegan at Hamburg, even though he played for the wrong club. They'll still talk about him and enthuse about him. And that's what he seems to do throughout his career. The people that he's around and the people in the region where he's playing just fall in love with him. They can't speak. They're similar age to me, and like I said, they both got connections to St. Pauli, not Hamburg, but yeah, Kevin Keegan, love Kevin Keegan.
What the club need to do is sort it out with Peter Beardsley. For me, he served his time. I think it was wrong what happened with Peter Beardsley. And Peter Beardsley and Kevin Keegan are best mates. And I genuinely would, make a play for Peter Beardsley if you want to see Kevin at the club. Kevin is a very loyal man, and I genuinely think, and this is my feeling, that if Peter Beardsley was back at the club in some capacity, whether it be in the lounges alongside the likes of John Beresford, etc., then I think you might see KK make an appearance. And I don't think Kevin will ever take a role at the club. I think Kevin enjoys his time as a granddad now and enjoys spending time with his family because that's the way Kevin is. He's in his 70s, mid-70s now. But I think Kevin would probably come back to the club in that case. But we don't know. I think Peter Beardsley, goes to lots of games. He goes to Liverpool. He's a guest at Man City. He goes to lots of other places. Peter Beardsley is the best player I've ever seen in a black and white shirt. Yet, he's not at the games anymore. And I think that is a crying shame. And I think Peter Beardsley should be welcomed back to the club. And I think a lot of the supporters would agree with it. I know supporters would agree with it. I still work with Peter. I promote Peter. And I think Peter should be welcomed back to the club, and the sooner the better.
Quite right.
Another little shameless plug. We've got Peter over here in Dubai with the Dubai Mags on the 27th of October. So anybody over here then, give us a shout and tell you how you can get tickets to come. He's going to come and he's going to do a talking and more. We've got all sorts of stand with him when he's here. So I'll have a little word in his shell and see what he says.
Yeah, Beardsley was let go from the club, but bullying will never be back at the club. It was a lot more than bullying, Steve, and that wasn't what he was found guilty of. We all know what he was found guilty of. I read the 42-page document. You could download it from the FA's website afterwards, Steve. It wasn't, from my perspective, he served his time. And what he was accused of, he certainly never was. And for me, I genuinely think that, I think he should be welcomed back to the club.
And it's my opinion, better be careful and say that he was led down by the hierarchy at Newcastle United during that period, because something could have been done a lot longer than it was, because certain people sat on things and left it to the FA far too long. And by the time it got to the FA, it was a mountain out of a molehill. It looked 10 times worse than it was. So Peter was let down in a lot of ways as well. The other thing I was going to say is, the person that suggested this statue thing said about him being a player and winning this and winning that. There are other people who have done similar, and nobody even mentioned statues. There's one name I could mention, not go down very well. A man called Stan Seymour. Won the FA Cup, won the league title with twice, managed the club. He was managing director, managed the club, managing director, managed the club. And in the 40s and 50s, was Mr. Newcastle by any other means. But there's only one difference between Stan and the other people we're talking about. The others were universally liked. I can't say the same about poor Stan. In fact, I can give you concrete examples of why.
Great stuff. 90 minutes into the show, almost finished. But we've got time for another half hour and a little bit of this. And when Steve Hastie's off, these lights mount up. Dear me, I've got an abundance of Hastie's tonight, which have all been there. But we got this one from Albert. Hearsay, you say, when he was referring. Tell you what, Albert, you're getting better at all of this, mate. That was very good, mate. Very good.
Look at Patterson on the end. That's tremendous.
Yeah, it is, fantastic. Well done, Albert. That's your best one yet, I've got to be honest. This is brilliant from David Munden. Eric Ten Hag lookalike. That's actually a ball boy.
I tell you, he could be looking for a new job soon, couldn't he?
He could be. Steve Hastie was a goalkeeper back in the day.
Yep. That's me. Well spotted.
And Steve Hastie stars in Gangster Granny.
Hey, that could be my mother, that.
Steve Hastie picking up a cute redhead.
Hey,
He's posting on all forums, Stephen Kennedy. And Steve Hastie psyching himself up for a Friday's lookalikes.
Oh, hey, man. Pat.
A Steve Hastie tree from Stephen Kennedy.
Hey, that's brilliant, that, isn't it? Wow.
Bonsai.
And well, he certainly kept that quiet. How long has Mr. Hasty owned Wetherspoons, he says?
And the thing, you know what? The thing that people said Peter Beardsley got done for bullying. Dear me. Where would that sit, you know?
Well, even Amanda Staveley's at it this week. Ian Russell says, tune lookalike, Amanda Staveley's dog. Steve Hasty. Been down at Amanda's this week. Moving on, 100% Mags. He said, actor Skeet Ulrich, a.k.a. Billy Loomis from Scream, and actor Nicholas Carrillo, a.k.a. Bernie from Kevin Smith's The 4:30 movie. Very good, 100% Mags. Did like that one.
100% Mags has got the right attitude here, hasn't he?
He's got the right idea. An egg and a cat. I've never had that one before, lads.
That's a classic. Oh.
Very good. Something a bit surreal and different. This one as well, a Barnsley fan and a painting of the woman from EastEnders. Brilliant stuff. Peter Kay and Tom Cruise.
Wow.
I bet you Tom's over the moon with that one. Greta Thunberg. And some alien from some film.
Yeah.
This one was terrible, but I have to include it. And Roy Keane was doing the rounds again this week. Billy Connolly. It's an old one, Gary, but I'll give you a shout out. Brad Pitt and Jim and Tammy. I've never even heard of Jim and Tammy.
No, it's been an American thing.
Oh, they're friends.
Misha, Minnie, and Ronaldinho. That's excellent.
It is, isn't it?
Could be the daughter.
Probably
Kurt Smith and Tino Livramento.
Definitely.
Wow.
That
would be one to shout about.
Yes, good one.
Mitch.
Magnus is getting a double whammy on the show tonight. Stu Pemman sent us this one. Tosh Lines from the Bill and Magnus.
Poor Magnus.
And I had a whole selection. Begbie, Freddie Mercury, and the 118 guy.
Yeah.
God, the 118 guy. I'd forgotten about him.
And by the way, that isn't Magnus's hair, but when we broadcast the watch along on our Big Up page the other night, his plant kept going behind his head. So it looked like his hair was picked up. That's why I took that photograph. All right. Top three this week. Steve Hasty lookalike was on the sidelines this week. That is a proper lookalike, Steve. That is you.
Oh, that is good. That is
good. Well done from Tim Cairns, spotting that one. Number 2 from Jimmy Moore. Excellent stuff. He sent it in as a tweet of the week, but I thought it was better as a lookalike because it is a lookalike. The winner this week is this one. And it comes with a message from Chris Baird. Hello, lads. Enjoy the show. A couple of lookalikes for you. Masters McIntyre and Brian Ferry, who used to be in the Houghton Cycle Club, and Eddie Merckx. Question, can we get this fan base action started? He says, I'm sure every Toon blog fan would donate. Cheers and how are the lads? He says, P.S. I was born on the very day we won the last FA Cup and would love to see it win it before I'm on the wrong side of the grass. So there we go. That was his lookalikes. You're the winner this week, Chris. Thank you very much for your contribution. Follow us on the Facebook groups and pages. NUFC Matters is all you need to search for. At Steve Wraith on X. Send us your lookalikes. We're running short, so get us a few in this week and we'll feature them next week. Couple of fun-loving ones to finish really tonight. Curveball from Captain Keefe. He says, random curveball, lads. What are your 3 favourite ever bars of chocolate? He says, for me, it's a Topic, a double-decker, and a Texan. Well, I'm afraid I'm old-fashioned, Captain Keefe. For me, it's a Mars bar, it's a Snickers, and it's a Dairy Milk. I'm old school, Captain Keefe. What about you, Mitch?
Flake. Caramac.
Ooh, Caramac.
Random. And I used to love, and yet don't know if you can get them anymore, bar 6.
bar 6. Interesting. Okay, Steve.
I like the Ripple, and I'm quite odd. I like milk chocolate, but I also like dark chocolate as well. So I love the Bourneville, but like the old Jamaican one that had the currants and the rum type flavour. And I think I also quite like, but I don't know whether this is going to be controversial now. Is it a biscuit or is it a chocolate bar? What is it? Twix?
Oh, it fits.
Rich is thinking he's going to come back on us. He's going to come back.
Fits.
Thank God you didn't say Jaffa cakes.
Yeah, exactly.
George?
Yeah. Well, Ripples I like too. I've got a more modern one, which got by accident. I picked up a Yorkie thinking I was picking up just a straight chocolate bar. And I picked up a new one that's got biscuit and currants in.
Oh, that's lovely, that.
Really lovely. Absolutely gorgeous. So I've got a new one. And like the old ones, like all the chubby ones, Boost and things like that. All of those are manna from heaven for me.
It used to be a one called Five Boys, and it was five different flavors. You remember?
Yeah.
You get the orange, and then it had like all the different liquid flavors through them. I mean, Nana used to bring them every Friday when she came to visit us when we lived in Wallsend, and we were only kids then. But like the Five Boys bars of chocolate, don't know where she got them from, but we used to love them.
Crunchy, says Ian. Marathon, sorry, not Snickers. Star Bars, says Les. Star Bars, and Star Bars. Cadbury's Fruit and Nut, says David. Flake, Ripple, and Mint Aero, says Mark. Marathon, Corley Whirly, and a Fudge. Curly Whirlies were lovely. Star Bar, Topic, there was too many nuts in that for me. And Dairy Milk, Bourneville, says Tim. Whisperer, Crunchy, Aztec, Mars, and Marathon. Bounty, Turkish Delight. Oh, I like the Turkish Delight. Yeah. Star Bar, Yorkie, Biscuit and Raisin, and Kinder Bueno. Fries Delight. Yeah, I had a fruit one of them, Tim. Do you remember? Kit Kat, Peanut Butter. Old Schools and Marathon. Yes, I know. Whoever said Turkish Delight is banned, says Ian. Dark chocolate. Wow, this has caused a right rise.
We've started a war now.
County Twix Reserve. If Quaker Oats made a candy bar, Hasty would be the picture on the wrapper.
May Rinkton's man's been today, so quite a lot of them you've mentioned. I've just filled my fridge with at dinner time when he came. But he also brought a tub of old-fashioned sweets. So I've got a can in the fridge. It's got Love Hearts and Fizzers and Black Jacks and all
You're going to get told off at your diabetes clinic.
We have the same Lincoln's man, by the way, Stephen. They used to we used to love Jelly Babies, but now they've got their own version of Jelly Babies from Rington's that are called geriatrics.
Do you want to say them?
Babies, they're all people. I recommend them. Absolutely. He's away to get them. Look, he's away.
He's off.
Chunky Kit Kats, they're nice as well. Ian. Mark Byers has a comment. I wasn't going to read it out, but I did leave it on the screen. For you all have a chuckle at. I don't want to get banned by the club again for maybe doing stuff like that. My all-time favourite food was a canny bag of Tudor, says Kev. Karamak Golden Cup. Rington's
Golden Cup. Ooh.
Yeah. There he is. What's he got?
Jelly at Rick's. Very good.
Captain Kiefer was responsible for that tweet, so well done. That was a good one. Blue Rhythm Boy asked another good question for us, lads. Mitch, who are your 4 Mount Rushmore of Newcastle legends? Players, managers, owners, etc. can all be included. Well, I'll give you mine. It's dead easy. Keegan, Beardsley, Alan Shearer, and Rob Lee. That's my 4.
Keegan, Beardsley, Shearer, Kilcline.
Steve?
Keegan, Beardsley, Shearer, and Terry Mack from the back. That's the sign. The signatures on the back there.
Very good.
I'll go for them 4.
George?
Keegan, Shearer, Beardsley, and Jackie Milburn.
Mitchell's the dentist. You must be worried for your dad, says Sean.
More worried about his diabetes than anything else.
Now we're on to crisps, Ringos and Space Invaders. Space Invaders are all right. And,
I see, but
yeah.
Are they crisps or maize-based potato snacks?
Maize-based potato snacks. Say that after a few Jaeger bombs with stew.
Hey.
Another category.
Sorry, Jacob, it was Mrs. Mangle from Neighbours on lookalikes, not the woman from EastEnders. They look very similar, though. Pedro is a bona fide tune legend, always will be, says Davey. I love this one as well from Mark Slavin. I almost flattened Peter Beardsley in M&S by accident. I walked around an aisle, bumped into his trolley. I'm 6'7", and he isn't. P.S. He had loads of milk. Peter does watch this show, Mark, as well. So I'm imagining him sitting in his kitchen laughing at that one when he catches up with this, which is brilliant stuff. Ian also says, George, in years to come, I hope I've still got your enthusiasm, though I have a feeling it's going to be a very different club when I'm your age. So there we go.
Well, I hope it is in a better club with lots of trophies. That would be great. I hope you enjoy it.
David says we could have statues to our greats lined up along the pathway to our new stadium, and it would be great if historical information is there as well, so our young supporters can appreciate our journey, which is a great idea. And Mark tuned in a bit late. We haven't discussed anything on new CEO because there's not really anything to tell on it, to be perfectly honest. And as you know, we won't speculate on stuff on this channel unless we've got a good inkling that we think it's true. Barry says, can I ask George, have you any memories or stories of when Newcastle were beaten by Barcelona 4-3 in a friendly match in the 1950s?
Other than being there, it was a great occasion. Don't forget it. Overseas clubs coming were a novelty in those days. To even have them come to St James's Park was a great thing, and everybody just wanted to be there. I think it was nearly a full house. You know, we're talking about nearly 60,000 for a friendly match, which was unusual, but just a great occasion. That's me living memory of it. You know, don't forget that in 1950 I was just I was just at school. You know. But just everybody wanted to go. That's me long lasting memory. Nobody could talk about anything else for weeks.
Yeah,
that they were coming. You know, that was the big thing.
On the CEO bit, Steve, Richard Masters might be available soon.
Oh God, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? No. Jacob Halls, a serious question for George. If I ever find myself on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and I'm stuck on £1 million question about the history of Newcastle, may I call him as my phone a friend?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That'll be that'll be a £500,000 question then.
It will be, yeah.
All of it.
Good evening to our resident Everton fan, Rico. Honours shared last week, mate. Evening. Did you see the Newcastle squad coming out of our stadium over last weekend on social? One of the team's coaches stopped traffic and let players cross the road back to the Titanic Hotel. I didn't see that, Rico, but thanks for that, mate. And yes, honours even last weekend, which we've spoken about quite a bit this week.
Well, Steve, can I interject there? The bit that I liked last week was that in a new stadium at Everton, they tested their sound system. And guess what they played? Local Hero.
Oh, fantastic. Good song. I stood on
into it, didn't they?
Another Pedro story. I stood on Beardsley's toe and who knows when on a work night. He held the door open and I stepped back. My dad went mad in case I'd injured him.
Quite right.
Well, my favourite story about the personal one about Peter, who I know and love very well, was when I met him at the food bank a couple of years ago, and he said how much he enjoyed my shows because I understood what a centre half was and a right half and an inside right.
Moz had asked earlier about PIF buying some shares in DAZN TV. No, it's no surprise, Moz. Look, they invest in a hell of a lot of things. Name something in the high street that they don't have a percentage in nowadays.
And the amount of the boxing they carry, mate, it's all about that. That's what it's all about.
Of course it is. Of course it is. The boxing and you know,
they've just taken 40% of Selfridges as well, haven't they?
Yeah. Notice that the boxing isn't often referred to as sports washing by some of the same journalists who comment on Newcastle United week in, week out, who've raised their heads once again.
I've seen the word innovative used and groundbreaking even. And you're like, really?
Yeah, exactly. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Two-faced journalism. Philip Shuttleworth says, anyone seen Vlacky with his kicks was much better than Pope. Good to see a keeper win at Wembley. Would you pick him for our 2 cup finals? Mitch.
No, but do you know what I would do? I'd get him working with Pope in the background and on his footwork.
Yeah, to show him.
He does look so much better with his footwork.
Yeah.
And if you want, the one thing Eddie seems to foster within the squad is to get players working together to better themselves.
Yeah.
And getting that goalkeeping group. He's brought Ruddy in for a reason. He's kept Gillespie for a reason. We've got 5 bloody goalkeepers, for God's sake. And if we can't, out of that, see them improve together by working together, then that's a shame.
I think this is brilliant. This I once had to serve Peter Beardsley his wife a cup of tea while working at the Odeon on Pilgrim Street.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. And we could do a whole show on I once met Peter Beardsley. Most of them will be in shopping aisles, of course. Pizza's ordered in the Felon from Nicholas. Pizza's ordered pepperoni with doner meat. Fill your boots. Well done, Nicholas. Enjoy them, mate. We still need that catch up. Tom Richardson, good evening or good afternoon in America. She says, Keith P mentioned that fans could and should sue the Premier League after the City Tribunal findings. Any inkling of one? I mean, we don't know, do we? You know what's happening, Steve, on that. With it's a suggestion at the moment, but we don't know. It's the kind of thing that Keith would do, I guess. But whether he will or not, it's a different matter.
No, I think what Keith was saying was that there is nothing to stop fans coming together, fans from clubs all around the country, putting a fund together and taking the Premier League to court. And what Keith was pointing out was that he knows how to do it. He knows that he has the connections within the legal profession that will be willing to take it on because he's already spoken to them. But in terms of Keith being front and centre, I can't see that happening personally. I haven't sat with him and talked to him about it, so I may be wrong. But just from when he was on the show the other day, he was very much of this is something that can happen. Somebody needs to take it on. He's done his bit. He did his bit back in 2020. But what he's pointing out is that if you can prove, and he says it can be, if you can prove a loss through as supporters, a group of supporters can and take the Premier League to court under competition law and would win because that's the guidance he's been given from the legal entities that he's spoken to. So it could happen, but it's going to take a fan group or a group of fans to take that on board, whether the FFSA or whether any of the other fan groups would be willing to do it, have the appetite to do it, or even have the conviction to do it, bearing in mind the FSA are financed by the Premier League, I would question. So they're not financed directly from the Premier League, but they are financed from a fund that is put to one side that goes towards and pays for that particular organisation and other fans' organisations. So it's very much something that I think an official fan group would probably shy away from, but individual groups of fans from other clubs could easily come together, set something in place, and as Keith pointed out, then there's nothing to stop them being supported by individual donations from individuals and other organisations to help bring it forward. So I think that's what he was implying, but I don't think he's going to be front and centre, Steve.
Go on, George.
Well, I was just, like I said to you before, I was tickled with this Noel Gallagher getting involved in this, getting Richard Masters out. So somebody should whisper in his ear about the idea that the he could rattle the whole Premier League if he goes about it the right way.
Somebody just said get Ed Sheeran on board as well. I mean, he's at Ipswich. That would be a good idea. Yeah, good shout. More Beardsley stories. Chippers says, I remember Beardsley came to Hartley Club for a talk-in. He was late as he played football with the kids outside. Captain, I'll ask Peter this when I see him. He said, wonder what Peter Beardsley thinks about Bob Mortimer's takeoff. I've never seen it, but yeah. And Roger Cook says, I saw Peter talking to someone outside Morrison's last year, but a bottle saying hello. And Ian McKenna said, we used to hide and throw stuff at Steve Cram when he ran past. But then he's doubled down on that and said, if you're watching Steve, it was all in jest.
That's be at least.
It definitely is. Okay, we'll finish off with this. And this one's from Blue Rhythm Boys. Says, who do you think will be the first Premier League manager to go this season? Wolves manager looks precarious. What do you think, Mitch? Who do you think will be first to go? My mind's changed, certainly. I still think the Southampton manager.
No, I don't think they can afford the second. I think they'll stick with him through thin and thinner because what it costs to sack a manager. I'm going to go a little random, and on the back of his last result and the fact that his mate act is slipping, I'm going to say Postecoglou.
Ooh, Postecoglou. What about you? So you were going to say the same, Steve?
I was going to say that. I just get the feeling that the wheels are coming off there. With him, not so much the club, but just his whole demeanour seems to be falling apart.
Yeah,
very much like the demeanour of Mourinho in his latter days at every club that he went to. But I'll go for my second choice, and I think that'll be Ten Hag.
I can't see them. I mean, everyone's saying Ten Hag as well. Lots of people in the chat. Man United can't afford to sack him. I think that's the other thing. But you might be right. I mean, Ten Hag on performances and where they are for the club they are, you would imagine. But, can they afford to sack him? They're skint, Man United, really, on the face of it. They haven't got the money to get rid of him. George, who do you think?
Well, I think it's probably because I sit too close to Steve at St. James's, but Postecoglou and Ten Hag were made too, I've got to say.
Wow. Okay, a little bit of Elliot. What's the difference between an Alsatian and a Stotty cake? They're two different breeds.
Yeah.
No live show over the weekend. I am filming this weekend. So Monday, we will be back with a fans forum. Thanks to everybody this week's been an absolutely brilliant week on NUFC Matters. Thanks to Keith for coming on, especially during the week and doing that midweek professionals. Those were the days for you to catch up on. And we're coming more or less to the end of it now, where couple of great shows. Sundays are really good because we look back on Rafa Benitez's promotion season with George. It's a two-hour show that, but it felt like half an hour, to be honest, because it was such a good season to go through. I kept telling throughout the days, I keep telling George, can we just try and keep it to 90 minutes, George? And damn it, it was 2 hours. It was an epic show, but it doesn't feel like it.
It reminded me of my Marjorie, of course, because her epic take on it was I'd sit here talking for 2 hours to you. Yeah. And when I finished, I'd look at her and say, that was all right with it. And that first remark was, that Steve's bloody great, isn't he?
Fantastic. I don't really see anything on there apart from hello and goodbye. Don't forget, buy the Entertainer's book, the 1992-1997 Kevin Keegan's Legacy, Newcastle Legends, $13.99 plus postage, newcastlelegends.com. Buy it over the weekend, please. Help us get to 200 before the book comes out and help Dementia Matters. I'm off to do something for Dementia Matters now, so I will keep you in suspense over that for a little longer, and I'll see you live on Monday, 6 o'clock with the fans forum. Have a good weekend, lads. Take care.
And you,
everyone.